Chapter 1, Strategic Basis, Self-Reliance in Asymmetric Warfare. Warfare is not always about military numbers. When resources are exhausted and traditional defense forces are weakened, innovation becomes a weapon of survival. Ukraine, in its recent life and death struggle, has demonstrated how people can self-rely in adversity. 1.1. Background of asymmetric warfare. In 2022, when Russia launched a full-scale campaign in Ukraine, the world witnessed a clear disadvantage. Russia was superior in numbers, firepower, and mobility, but Ukraine did not choose traditional confrontation. Like the Nordic giant that could not win a battle of attrition, Ukraine chose to shrink the battlefield and attack piecemeal, a classic asymmetric warfare method that makes full use of terrain, morale, and allies. 1.2. Innovation in difficult times, from factories to the front. As Western aid slowed, Ukraine quickly turned its civilian tire and tractor factories into production lines for drones and defense systems. By candlelight and even in underground bunkers, tactical and heavy drones like the homemade Bayraktar were born. The definition of self-reliance here does not mean just self-production, but strategic autonomy. The ability to adjust when suddenly cut off from supplies. Ukraine proved that it could fight with its own ingenuity. 1.3. Defense map. Creative centers of resistance. On the map of the Ukrainian war, many centers such as Vinnytsia, Lviv, Kyiv became war production households, where civilians transformed themselves into field-expedient engineers. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian leadership is not afraid to make a national appeal like, whoever has a welding machine, bring it out to weld tanks. Whoever is an air conditioning engineer, sue to install UAVs, making the war model become for all people, not just professionals. 1.4. New war. Small, cheap, but smart. Not only optimizing costs, Ukraine learns how to fight so that the fatal blow breaks the opponent's arm. DIY drones, GPS receivers, or deploying high-precision firepower show that in modern warfare, cheap does not mean weak. Specific examples: the tactic of UAVs harassing air defense lines before HIMARS rockets arrive is a mini-meets formidable coordination. Looking at the map, after every rebellious UAV incident, HIMARS appears and creates a breakthrough, a two-sword combination style that is the opposite of what Russia often uses.
Chapter 2. Battlefield Practice. Creativity amidst bombs. If Chapter 1 outlines the strategic foundation, Chapter 2 takes us to the front line, where unimaginable creativity becomes the bread and butter of the Ukrainian war. It is there that we see clearly what self-reliance means in real combat, when no one can be sure whether the arsenal will still be supplied tomorrow. 2.1. Drones, from children's toys to sky killers. The most common image of the Ukrainian war is no longer the T-72 tank, but the small drone buzzing like a honeybee. Civilian drones originally used to film weddings or YouTube clips were modified with a few grenades tied to electric wires. From there, drones became cheap and effective weapons. In Bakhmut, a Ukrainian soldier platoon recounted, "We only had a DJI drone worth a few $100s, but thanks to it, the whole platoon escaped death." Drones help them scout, mark artillery, and even drop bombs into enemy bunkers. A poorer, weaker country, but thanks to its own efforts to transform existing technology, creates an unexpected advantage. 2.2. Farmer-made armored vehicles. Another phenomenon, old Toyota pickup trucks turned into combat vehicles. People, mechanics, and even street welders turned civilian car bodies into temporary iron armor. In Kharkiv, there is a team jokingly called Iron Farmers, Steel Farmers. They weld additional iron plates, drill holes to install machine guns, and then paint camouflage. Although these Tiger vehicles cannot compete with T-90 tanks, they are effective in urban areas or surprise ambushes. This is the essence of asymmetrical warfare, using few to fight many, using cleverness to win over strength. 2.3. Recycled weapons and DIY battlefields. One of the stories that makes the world laugh and admire, Ukrainian weapons are not only purchased from aid, but are recycled from enemy warehouses. Unexploded Russian artillery shells were picked up by sappers, remade with detonators, and then fired back. Many videos show Ukrainian soldiers attaching plastic bottles to the tip of mortar shells to increase stability when firing with homemade launchers. If brought back to military textbooks, perhaps this would be a new chapter called DIY on the battlefield. 2.4. People's War, civilians are also soldiers. In Kyiv, a 65-year-old housewife learns how to sew soft armor from fireproof fabric. IT students set up a network security network, attacking enemy propaganda sites. The connection between the rear and the front line turns war into a national effort, with no longer the boundary of who is a soldier, who is a civilian. A Western journalist wrote, "I have never seen a country where a coffee shop sells espresso and collects spare batteries for frontline drones." 2.5. Domino effect on the battlefield. From small innovations, Ukraine creates a system. On the battle map, after each wave of disruptive UAVs, the Russian army is forced to deploy anti-aircraft artillery. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian Mobi forces launch precise counterfire. This buzzing, roaring combination gradually wears down the enemy's firepower. The battlefield has proven, without direct confrontation, just by being creative in the right place and at the right time, the weak can tire the strong to exhaustion. Chapter 3. Global Significance, from Ukraine to the world. If Chapter 2 is a vivid picture on the battlefield, Chapter 3 expands the vision. Why is Ukraine's self-reliance war important for the world? And what will humanity learn for the future? 3.1. Lessons from the past. History has proven. World history is full of asymmetrical wars. Vietnam's resistance against the U.S., Afghanistan's resistance against the Soviet Union, or even the French resistance against Nazi Germany. But the difference is, never before has cheap and civilian technology been used so strongly as in Ukraine. Ukraine shows that without a nuclear arsenal, with just will and creativity, a small nation can also hold its own against a superpower. 3.2. The change of modern warfare. After Ukraine, every country must ask the question, is it worth investing billions of dollars in giant weapons when a drone worth a few $100s can disable a $1 million tank? War has changed, and Ukraine is the blood laboratory for that change. There is no longer a boundary between military and civilian weapons. Any civilian technology, from smartphones to 3D printers, can be turned into a combat tool. 3.3. Strategic implications for the world. This makes small countries in Asia and Africa realize they do not need to engage in the old-fashioned arms race. Instead, they can follow the Ukrainian model, investing in innovation, in people, in distributed defense systems. This is also a warning to superpowers. Do not think that a strong army is a guarantee of victory, because a determined country, self-reliant, knowing how to make use of anything at hand, can prolong and even turn the situation around. 3.4. Spiritual value. Will to survive. Ukraine's self-reliance is not only about drones or homemade armored vehicles, it is about the spirit. We do not surrender. That will create the strength that the whole world admires. That will is the strongest weapon, making a small country stand firm against the storms of history. Conclusion: the future belongs to those who dare to innovate. Ukraine shows us that 21st century war is no longer just an expensive arms race. It is an intellectual race. Whoever knows how to innovate, that person can survive. Ukraine has proven that. In adversity, they know how to be self-reliant, from small drones to the will of the whole people. And that lesson is not only for the military, but for anyone living in an uncertain world. Be creative, be resilient, and never wait for others to save you. If you find this analysis useful, please like, share, and subscribe the channel to spread profound historical and strategic stories. Because each of your shares is the motivation for us to continue bringing unique perspectives on this turbulent world.